Hi, I'm Megan Volpert. This is a poem from the new project that I've been working on, which is Love Letters and Hate Mail to Andy Warhol. And this is the poem that was recently published in Ariel. O Tachometer. It doesn't matter if you went to bed with Lou. He thinks of you like a father now. How many times did he lope in, having written nothing, but claiming 10 songlets just to please you? Fingertips pressed together and flexing your creakier joints. You want to know, why not 15 instead? Was he crestfallen every time, or steely against your predictable impulse toward productivity? Lo and behold, now an elder statesman of rock, Lou has made over 40 albums in 50 years. That's not even including compilations, collaborations, or appearances. And he found time to do a few films. Andy, you reproduce yourself. Perhaps the most awe-inspiring thing about a motorcycle is that what it is doing on the outside does not precisely correspond to what it is doing on the inside. The speed of the wheels is not the same as the speed of the engine. At a full stop, the wheels of the bike are stationary while the engine continues to turn over. Or with a heavy load, the wheels of the bike move slowly while the engine increasingly works overtime. The work of the engine is not the same as the engine's product, which is pure speed. In the song My House, released on the Blue Mask in 1982, Lou Reed reflects on how lucky his life has been and counts the 3 things that most contribute to this feeling: his writing, his motorcycle, and his wife. He also refers to a spirit of pure poetry. The song is a tribute to his late mentor, poet Delmore Schwartz. Andy, you must be so jealous of how much credit he gave this influence. But then when you died, Lou wrote an entire song cycle about you. The Songs for Drella album beats one measly tune, doesn't it? Lou says of Schwartz, "My Daedalus to your bloom was such a perfect wit." Daedalus was father to Icarus and fashioned the wings with which the boy flew into the sun. But here, Stephen Daedalus and Leopold Bloom refer to the anti-heroes of James Joyce's Ulysses: Stephen, the first Christian martyr, patron saint of deacons and bricklayers. In the end, 1966 in New York City, Delmore Schwartz was so isolated that the staff of the Hotel Marlin did not discover his body for 2 days. Have you ever been alone for 2 whole days, Andy? A bike moves forward, always forward. It speeds ever onward, giving a strong sense of progress, of mileage. But the true measure of a bike is not the speed it produces. Rather, consider the work of the engine. The engine does not move forward, it revolves. It remains in one place, repeating itself, circulating around itself as it propels its hive down the road and into the sunset. The true measure of a motorcycle is therefore the tachometer. A tachometer measures a motor's revolutions per minute. It keeps count of the work process done by the engine. This is in contrast to an odometer, which can only evaluate the product, the speed of the wheels. Imagine that life is a comic book, and each person has a bubble floating over their head, a tachometer of human work processes. What exactly would it measure? Did you push it to the limit, Andy? Perhaps the most interesting thing about your placid neon face is the mystery of what is going on underneath it. The wheels aren't moving, but my breastplate picks up the distinctive hum of an engine vibration. It's like the sonic thump of the bass against your sternum at a stadium show. We cannot relax. People mistake this for anxiety, and we fiend that this is the case so they will leave us alone. We work alone. We work a lot. We work all the time. We have real anxiety when we cannot work. My engine wants on. It makes total sense that you refer to your tape recorder as your wife. Most tape recorders during the 50s and 60s had a tachometer. A tape recorder's wheels, the electronics that drive the tape, use the tachometer signal to play the tape at proper speed. This signal is measured against another reference signal, such as a quartz crystal or alternating current. A comparison of the 2 frequencies drives the speed of the tape. The tape transport is said to be at speed when the tachometer signal and the reference signal match. Do you often look at the tiny white numbers rolling up into the skull of the recorder, dreaming they might somehow align with the pace of the speed freaks chattering in your office? As long as those numbers keep counting, you are at work. Is it glorious each time they reach 999 and begin from 0 again? If your wife is recording at speed, you reach 999 every 16 minutes and 39 seconds. Is she faithful? Is she indisputable voice and memory, overlooking all your foibles but catching every witty word, revolving always around you? You can be working and feeling alone even when she is in the room. You would love driving a motorcycle, Andy. The machine can only do what you tell it to do and then reproduce that gesture endlessly. Lou Reed has a passion for motorcycling. Many bikes appear in his lyrics, and many bikers identify with his songs. In one song, his life is headed for the existential toilet bowl. He responds by aiming his bike directly at a fat pothole. Bottoming out is a term that refers to pushing a bike suspension to its limit, causing a rough ride, preventing the wheels from adequately responding to the controls, and significantly increasing the chance of a crash. The song Bottoming Out appears on the legendary Hearts album, which Lou Reed released in 1983. The album cover art displays a futuristic full-face helmet and a pair of black leather riding gloves. This album also features the song Don't Talk to Me About Work. We can all agree you should be on a bike, Andy, but it is time to ask that most practical of rhetorical questions: Harley or Honda? Have you ever seen a gutter ball pop inexplicably, rapturously out of its rut and knock down a bunch of pins? Despite this touching feeling that you are a proud American who can drive only an American-made bike, I have a much stronger compulsion to believe your bike of choice is made in Japan. In the matter of speed, there is no contest. You cannot race on a Harley. But moreover, in the matter of your art, amidst Campbell's soup cans, Brillo boxes, portraits of stage and screen icons, Americana of all kinds, your Mineola motorcycle produced in 1985. A replica of the revolutionary Honda CB754, the Street Fighter class of bigger, faster, cheaper bikes first introduced in 1969 that, along with Marlon Brando and the Hells Angels, cost Harley the majority of its market share. At a top speed of 120 miles per hour, the CB754 results in a new motorcycling class, Superbike. It stayed in production for 34 years and sold 400,000 copies within the first 10 years. That's more than the number of times you copied your portrait of Marilyn Monroe, Andy. Plus, it could outperform Bob Dylan's Triumph 500 in every way. European and American bikes are too butch for you. You meet the nicest people on a Honda. That's what the advertising said in the 1960s. In 1984, Honda began using rock stars to sell their line of scooters in the U.S. Grace Jones, Adamant, and Devo all appear in the new marketing campaign. Lou Reed also did one of Honda's commercials, a year after he released legendary Hearts with motorcycle gear on the cover. 1 year after this Honda ad, you did the Mineola piece, even though the bike had been around for 2.5 decades at that point. Lou influences you too, doesn't he? Lou with his electric shock and heroin, with his deep layers, his lovely, unmanageable appetites that you wish to peel slowly and see. I wonder about what you two were trading, and if it was fair, or if it should have been fair. Ready to explode, you patched his noise with Nico, a piece of German plastic. The exploding plastic inevitable kept you in transit together. Did you nurse him through hepatitis in 1966, or leave him smoldering at the hotel like a pet dog? I worry about this because All Tomorrow's Parties is one of my least favorite songs on the first and only Velvet Underground album you produced, the 13th greatest album of all time, according to Rolling Stone magazine. Is it your favorite song because it revolved around you? Lou writes a mean love letter. Everybody knew Nico couldn't sing, but you got your way and you got into all those parties. Your best girls always leave you for Bob Dylan, Andy, though they come back later once he's laid them down in a crash. Lou hung around, his nihilistic urban punk confessions glamorously lunar eclipsing Dylan's mild and melodic Midwestern folk songs at every conceivable turn. So what if Dylan ended up as number 2 between the Beatles and Elvis on Rolling Stone's Top 50 Immortals of Rock? The Velvet Underground is ranked at number 19. No one suspected that through all of this pop carnage it would be Lou Reed alone who came out alive. He claims the ghost in his house spelled out D-E-L-M-O-R-E on his Ouija board. It is rumored that Delmore Schwartz once said to him, "You can write, and if you ever sell out and there's a heaven from which you can be haunted, I'll haunt you." Lou is your superbike, Andy. When he fired you, was it a surprise? Studies show that the limits of peripheral vision in typical motorcycle lines of sight make no contribution to the traffic hazard, because more than 75% of all crashes are within 45 degrees of either side of straight ahead. Lou Reed himself quit the Velvet Underground not too much later, 1 year after the Honda CB754 came out.
I'll try.